Hey everybody, Alan Hines here with your COVID New Year lesson. I got COVID last week, but symptoms are very mild, but I'm staying a lot. Hey, so I was checking out some Alan Holdreth, as I do from time to time, as everybody probably should from time to time, because he was and always will be a phenom, just the best guy ever. I mean, he was in another orbit. Now, I'm not going to show you any revelation, any insight into a lot of what he does, because I don't know it myself, but it's too deep. But one thing I noticed, when stretching out playing patterns, there's a cool thing that happens when you get up high on the fretboard. Now, you know, between most strings there's a fourth, right? Fourth, A to D, D to G, but G to B is a major third. So what happens when you stretch out far, when you have your fingers out up around the 12th fret, you can get some kind of cool effects that might help mix up your soloing. Might give you a little fresh approach to soloing. Now let's take for the key of E, right? So if I just play straight up the scale, sure. But if I start experimenting, going outside and maybe combining a couple of the patterns together, I'm going to end up getting possibly some double notes. Look at that. That's not a hard stretch at all. I'm getting the G sharp to double on the G string and the B string. And this is a really cool effect. A lot of times when it's played by itself, that may not sound like that much, but when you play it in the middle of a scale and you get a double note, it sounds almost what happens often with the keyboard lines or with the saxophone players especially, because they'll do a double, I think there's a name for it, like a double stopper or some kind of, I don't know what it is, but it's when they finger certain notes and they go to another finger and it's the same note, different fingering, and it makes for a different timbre, which it kind of does in guitar too. The G sharp on the G string sounds a little bit different than it does on the B string. But that's a cool effect when you do it in the middle of a run, especially. Now, once again, if you have long enough fingers and if you work up the strength, you can take this a little further too. And when you stretch further, what you're going to get is, instead of a sequence going up, or just a W note, if you stretch far, you're going to get this out of sequence, where you're actually going up on your pattern. But because you're stretching to that A up here, you're going to get bo 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 bo, and it's going to make for some interesting intervallic variations. Follow me on this. So the whole concept is to whatever note, whatever patterns you might be playing. Sometimes I throw in those wide intervals and it gets quite interesting. And, you know, experiment with that out of the usual positions, of course. The concept doesn't limit itself to just one position or another. Anyway, this is the way you can get kind of a Holdreth, maybe a more modern approach to your soloing. It's a little more interesting sometimes to be able to mix it up like that, only by shifting positions and stretching, and once again being able to visualize the fretboard in a lot bigger picture.